happen. We have to really escalate the noise we make so that we'll be heard.
Welcome to Gay USA. I'm Andy Hum.
I'm Ann Northrup.
And in the news this week, the big news was from India, where the Supreme Court gave a ringing endorsement of sexual freedom, striking down the colonial-era law against sodomy.
This is huge, and we'll give you all the details on that. And we'll also talk about what's going to happen if the U.S. Supreme Court goes in the other direction by gaining Brett Kavanaugh as its 9th member.
What is to be done? We'll discuss that. In Cleveland, pioneering gay activist and journalist Buck Harris has died at 70.
The most powerful executive in television has been taken down by the women he abused and the gay man who told their stories.
A federal appeals court has rejected the appeal of a gay man sentenced to death by an anti-gay jury.
A new study shows that few young gay men are using PrEP, pre-exposure prophylaxis, but also found encouraging increases in African-American gay and bisexual men getting tested for HIV.
And our guest is the legendary columnist Michael Musto. He's going to tell us about a new show he's doing in October 6th, at Club Cumming, and he's going to dish the news with us. Right, Michael?
That's right.
Okay. India.
First, we dish the news from India. Well, India has a long history here of Section 377 in its law. In fact, it was a British colonial law implemented in the 1860s.
It's 150 years old.
And what it did was forbid carnal intercourse against the order of nature, which was defined as same-sex sex and sex with animals. They have retained the prohibition on sex with animals, but they have repealed, disallowed the section that forbade sex between people of the same sex.
And it was a unanimous decision, and as has been pointed out, it affects basically a fifth of the world's population. 18% of the world's population lives in lives in India. That's 1.3 billion people who are covered by this.
And it's a very broad ruling. Not only does it repeal the prohibition on same-sex sex, but it also mandates a broader view of non-discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation.
And it was a beautifully written decision,
It was.
Something you will not ever probably read from an American court. Let me just quote this. They said the Constitution protects the fluidities of sexual experience. It leaves to consenting adults to find fulfillment in their relationships in a diversity of cultures, among plural ways of life and in infinite shades of love and longing. Not a typical language from a court decision.
Yeah, and you're right, nothing we expect to see from the Supreme Court of the United States, although they already did Lawrence v. Texas, which accomplished some of the same thing, not a non-discrimination mandate, but legalized.
And that's settled law, which of course can be overturned by Kavanaugh. Was he asked about that one? He was asked about Obergefell.
Yes, he was.
We'll get to that.
But the Indian Supreme Court described the law they struck down as, and I like this language, irrational, indefensible, and manifestly arbitrary.
Yeah, and now some activists want to pursue more. They're ready to bring a suit about same-sex marriage and other things. Other activists are saying, take it easy, we may not be ready for that.
Well, in fact, there are right-wingers who haven't given up, as we have so often experienced in this country. They want to try to reimpose this law, but the Supreme Court put in a sort of poison pill in their decision that said, once you grant rights to part of the population, you cannot take them back. So they have attempted to foreclose anybody coming along and reimposing
Yes, they did say that.
Although we know the right wing
And
is
there was, have
capable
we shown any of these pictures? There were huge headlines. There was jubilation in the streets
Yes.
with people. It
Huge
was,
celebrations.
I mean, all over the country.
Yeah.
All over the country.
There's a celebration. And did we put up the headline from the Times of India? All over the
Now,
country.
as has been pointed out, it's still a very conservative country, as is this one. But, in 2014, that same court added the third gender category, but many parts of India ignore the ruling.
Well, a lot of this was based on a ruling in 2017 that established the right to privacy, and the court used that in large part. They also used some American analysis. They used an economic analysis of stigma written by our friend Lee Badgett of the Williams Institute, legendary economist. She had done an analysis about what it costs a country to discriminate, and they used that in making their decision. They also used something from psychotherapist Jack Drescher about depathologizing homosexuality.
Another voice from London Terrace heard from. He's a therapist
We are
in
everywhere.
our building.
Yeah.
It was interesting
It's not his only claim to fame.
It was interesting to read in this context that the Catholic cardinal there, now it's a small percentage of the Indian population,
Very.
but the Catholic cardinal of Mumbai, in 2013, the court upheld this law as a crime against nature, and he said that
after it had been struck down by a Delhi court in 2009.
And he said that his church has never opposed decriminalization. Well, that's debatable, but and we have never considered gay people criminals. Just just going to hell.
Just intrinsically disordered.
It's not like I'm for same-sex marriage, but we're against discrimination and abuse. And he met with LGBT groups, which is more than Cardinal Dolan has ever done.
I'm not inclined to give them a lot of credit.
Well, this is inspiring people throughout the Commonwealth and Singapore. There's a DJ down there who wants to sue based on the India ruling to get rid of their anti-sodomy law.
He has filed suit. And coincidentally, I don't know the explanation for this, but the Indian law was Section 377, and the Singapore law is 377A. So I don't know if the British imposed these laws all over the world under the 377 number, or that's just a coincidence. Wow. But there are still 70-some countries that have prohibitions against homosexuality, against anal intercourse, whatever version they have, and half of those are Commonwealth countries. So the hope is that this India decision will be a model for the rest of the world, and the dominoes will fall.
Let's go back to this godforsaken country.
This one.
President Trump. The Woodward book, one of the things in it, Fear, which just came out, Trump in the White House, he told Bannon, trans troops, what the F? They're coming in here, they're getting clipped, he said, meaning the soldiers who were transgender. And someone told him that an operation for transgender confirmation would cost $250,000, and he said, it's not going to happen. And then he started doing the tweets.
Well, the tweets were also based on the fact that Vicky Hertzler and Congress were trying to stop paying for trans surgery in the military, and they offered him a number of options, and he went for the nuclear option without even answering the people who had offered him the options. He just started tweeting. Yep. But it confirms what we have known all along about the progress of this decision and how it happened. So I was happy to see the Woodward book confirm it. But it's also...
General Mattis put up apparently some resistance, then of course caved in, and actually Bannon said, you're going to have to take this for the team.
Yeah, but I think Mattis did resist for a long time, and they have not gone all the way in doing what they want to do yet.
Well, because the courts are telling them that they can't.
Yes, and he was told there were going to be lawsuits.
Anyway, his numbers are tanking ahead of the midterms. It's nice to see. And Simon & Schuster's printed 1 million copies of this book. 1 million of a book.
I have a theory on Giuliani. It's an opposite theory. It's because I don't want to disparage the person I'm going to compare him to, who was a great, not to the left of socialism, but to me, Giuliani is the Professor Irwin Corey of the Trump administration.
We love Irwin Corey.
Absolutely love him, but in his obfuscation by wordplay. I think Giuliani is fulfilling that role.
Well, how about the obfuscation of Brett Kavanaugh?
Yes.
It's completely evident now that he is hell-bent on overturning Roe v. Wade, overturning Obergefell, which gave us the right to marry nationwide. He did say that Plessy versus Ferguson in 1896 about racial segregation was wrongly decided, but he just refused to weigh in on the more recent. When I say more recent, I mean the ones that are only 40 or 50 years old.
Well, au contraire, he applauded Brown v. Board of Education.
Scalia used to refer to that as the bloody shirt of Brown. You're going to,
whatever that means. But,
well, it means that you can't say anything other than it was rightly decided. But believe me, these people are in favor of racial segregation of all kinds.
Well, of course. But the point is made, and you have made this too. He is perfectly happy to opine about decisions that he thinks are safe, but then sits back and says, I can't talk about anything that will come before me.
We're obviously very depressed about this, and everybody's pointing out that we're not going to have the protection of the federal courts for 2 generations now.
At least.
But the only way to fix that is through the Judiciary Act. I keep saying this, and because it is a way to do it. The Constitution does not specify the number of Supreme Court justices. We've had 9. You
never know who's going to disappear tomorrow.
Right. We've had 9 for a long time.
We didn't expect Scalia to
In the 19th century, it varied quite a bit, and it could be changed again. So don't let them tell you they can't do anything about it. They can. It would be something new, but it was done frequently in the past.
You would probably need a Congress that...
You need a Congress and the president, that's it.
Yes, but our problem is that we don't have them right now.
2021.
Oh, okay.
Hang in there.
And before we leave Trump and the military, on October 1st, the Trump administration is planning to eject from our military everyone who is HIV positive, because they're instituting a new rule that says deploy or depart. And they're arbitrarily, to quote the Indian Supreme Court, defining those living with HIV as unable to deploy to faraway places, which is utter nonsense. And then they're going to kick them all out.
A new assault every day.
Yes.
We, of course, are living through the New York primaries here in New York. The results will not be known until Thursday night, so we don't have them sitting here as we tape on Wednesday. But of course, at the very last minute, Governor Andrew Cuomo tried to paint his opponent as an anti-Semite using the Democratic Party that he controls.
It's shocking to me that the state Democratic Party, ahead of its primary, would issue...
They did endorse Cuomo. I mean,
But how can they do that?
Well...
They're holding a primary. How can they endorse someone?
They gave him the nomination. They couldn't give it to him, but they put him on the ballot.
I think it's outrageous.
And then in the Attorney General's race...
But he's claiming no knowledge of this flyer accusing her of anti-Semitism.
Yeah, it's a lie.
The same man who did vote for Cuomo, not the homo, in support of his father against Koch.
And then in the Attorney General's race, there is this out gay candidate, Sean Patrick Maloney, who was basically the center-right candidate in the Democratic primary, and a Republican real estate mogul spent $100,000 on his behalf in the home stretch to try to blunt the momentum of Zephyr Teachout. But you'll know the results. Better results in New Hampshire. Out gay Chris Pappas won the primary for Congress in the 1st District. He'd be the first out LGBT person in the congressional delegation from there. And in Arizona, Kyrsten Sinema is leading in the polls out there for U.S. Senate.
Yeah, but meanwhile, Governor Ducey has appointed Senator John Kyle, former Senator John Kyle, to fill John McCain's seat for a while. He is a rabidly anti-LGBT former senator. He consistently got a 0 from the Human Rights Campaign. He is no friend of ours, and he's there back in power in the United States Senate, and of course giving us another vote for Brett Kavanaugh.
Okay. Also, we're done with politics?
Yeah, on my list we
also,
are.
in New York City, the Lambda Legal Defense won a $280,000 settlement in damages for a guy named Thomas Ham. We have a picture of him and his boyfriend. He's the guy on the left in the picture. Yeah. He went to visit his partner in Rikers Island in
Local jail.
He was they were like holding hands, and the corrections officer said, "You can't do that." Now, of course, the heterosexuals were doing it, and
It's perfectly legal.
So they beat the hell out of him. Started calling him faggots, effing homosexuals.
They didn't beat the inmate. They beat the
him.
visitor. The visitor, as he was leaving, they started name-calling him and beat him viciously.
Ordered them to stop embracing. This happened in 2014. They're finally settling the case, but the corrections officer also said, "You're going to burn in hell because you're homosexual." Grab, punch. Thomas got charged with assault. These charges were dropped.
That's how these officers cover it up.
Yes.
They charged the guy that they beat up with attacking them. Yes, exactly.
So I called Lambda and I said, "Well, are these officers, have they been charged criminally?" "No, they're still on the job." So I intend to pursue that now and find out why these guys are still, I think it was all guys, yes it was, on the job.
You could not imagine a more gratuitous attack. And these are officers of the law.
I told you to stop embracing him. I told you. You disobeyed a command. That's what happens in these situations.
Outrageous, unbelievable.
Yep.
All right, well, let's
move on.
Let's talk about a nicer guy, Buck Harris, a Cleveland activist, just died
there
at
he is.
70.
We have a picture of him.
He did everything. He was a Renaissance guy. He did a very early gay radio show there. He ran naked yoga sessions.
Well, Governor Celeste of Ohio made him a consultant on gay health in 1984, and then when the guy running running for governor the next time, Rhodes, said, "My first thing I'm going to do is fire that gay when I get in there," and the guy lost.
1984, he's appointed by Governor Celeste as the gay health consultant. He goes into bathhouses and does safe sex education and bars. He defends bathhouses that everyone wanted to close and says, no, you need them open to do safe sex education there. Just because you close them down, you're not ending gay sex. This is the thing you need to keep open. He really was a hero. He trained HIV counselors all over the state. There's a memorial for him Sunday, September 23rd at 10 a.m. at the Capitol Theater in Cleveland. But my favorite line is, he lived in Cleveland, but he and his husband had a place in Provincetown and also a place in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. So he said, I summer in Provincetown, I winter in Puerto Vallarta, and I do my laundry in Cleveland.
Well, great guy. 70 years old. His partner was Michael O'Connor.
Yeah.
They eventually got married. He lost
30 years together.
Lost an early partner to AIDS.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. In Philadelphia, another trans woman murdered, 30 years old, Shante Tucker. Shot dead. They had this week a community call to action march on her behalf.
In Florida, in Charlotte County, a black trans woman, London Moore, was shot to death, 20 years old. They're calling for an investigation of it as a hate crime. Yeah.
London Moore was believed to be the 21st trans woman killed this year.
Well, we wouldn't be shocked by this, but the American Academy of Pediatrics came out with a study saying talking about alarming levels of attempted suicide among transgender youth. Girl to boy teens, 57% have attempted suicide. It says the overall attempted suicide rate for kids is like 14% overall.
Yeah.
Well,
it's an epidemic.
Anyway.
In Missouri, the 8th Circuit Court of Appeals has rejected, by a vote of 2-1, split decision, the appeal by Charles Rines of South Dakota. He is on death row in South Dakota for a crime he committed, a murder. But the story is that the jury members at his trial said that they sentenced him to death because they thought because he's gay, he would enjoy being in prison with other men. So they were going to sentence him to death.
Well, he has been in prison with men for 25 years.
Yes, that's the thing.
Row.
Well, that's the thing about a death sentence. It takes a long time to execute people.
Right.
So he appealed on the grounds that he was the victim of discrimination, and the appeals court has now turned him down.
All the groups were getting behind him: ACLU, Lambda, NCLR, and others. So they're going to. I imagine they're going to try to appeal that decision.
Yeah. And a strange story out of Pennsylvania. There's a Christian college there called Clark Summit University. A guy named Gary Campbell attended school there about 15 years ago.
It's a big Christian school.
Yes.
Fundamentalist Baptist.
He dropped out when he still had 6 credits to go. So he recently reapplied. He wanted to finish his degree. And they said, you're gay. You cannot come back to this school.
It's a violation. And the legal groups cannot help him because it's a private religious school.
Now, generally, these schools do not kick you out if you're just gay. They kick you out because you're married to someone of the same sex, or at least in a relationship. This guy is just gay, and they won't let him near the school. A nearby Lackawanna College has offered him the chance to finish his degree there.
In Miami Beach, 2 men were arrested for having sex in a car in broad daylight. They turned out to both be Catholic priests from Chicago. They were charged with lewd and lascivious behavior and removed from ministry by Cardinal Supich.
Please.
And he's one of the liberals.
In Missouri, a couple of things. A mother of a trans kid, a trans son who's 16, is suing the Joplin, Missouri School Board because they wouldn't let her trans son use the boys' restroom. And the ACLU is suing the State Commission on Human Rights in Missouri because they rejected the case of a trans male worker at Dollar General stores because he was denied use of the restroom there.
Well,
and the Dollar General store is saying, well, there's no sexual orientation non-discrimination law here. And the ACLU says this isn't about sexual orientation, it's about sex discrimination. This is a trans worker.
That will be up to Brett Kavanaugh.
Or the whatever.
In the long run. In Newberry, Florida, a trans person had this painted on her garage: "Move or die, tranny," and then they use the F word. It's a couple, Alicia and Liz Abel. Alicia is the transgender person. It's being investigated as a hate crime, but the neighbors have come out to support them.
Interesting incident in New Jersey at Colts Neck High School, where the very right-wing Republican member of Congress, Chris Smith, showed up to have a little chat with the students, and they started asking him about his voting record against gay issues. And one girl says, well, my sister is gay, and she says she's going to want to, have a partner and adopt kids, and you're against gay people adopting. Why are you against that? He said, well, it's much preferable to have heterosexual parents adopt. And in fact, it would be better to have the kids live in orphanages than... Well, the kids just assaulted him.
Did they?
Absolutely. They were
get arrested?
all horrified. No, not physically. And the school cut off the assembly and made them stop asking questions because they were all just getting so angry at him for being so anti-gay. So I'm wondering whether Chris Smith, in what is supposed to be a safe district, will actually get reelected.
Well, we don't know if the transgender rights law in Massachusetts is safe. It is up on a referendum, which is horrendous there. But Melrose in Massachusetts, the Board of Aldermen unanimously approved transgender rights in the face of this.
And the National Lesbian and Gay Journalists Association had its own little dust-up. They were having an annual convention in Palm Springs. And the closing ceremony started with Marshall McPeak, weatherman from, where is he a weatherman? Columbus, Ohio, gets up to the microphone and says, hello, ladies, gentlemen, things, and its.
Wow.
At the NLGJA convention. And people were very upset, and he had to apologize and resign from the organization.
Wow. Now, well, people have all kinds of preferences for their pronouns.
I don't think he was trying to be funny.
And
it wasn't funny.
He wasn't.
Yeah.
In Charleston, South Carolina, bail has been set at $75,000 for the man accused of attacking trans woman Kendra Martinez. They are brutally assaulted by Christopher Price, 30, second-degree assault and battery. South Carolina is one of 5 states that doesn't have a hate crimes law of any kind.
I'm ready to move on to international news. What have you got?
Well, how about that Les Moonves?
How about that Ronan Farrow?
Yes, Ronan Farrow is. And what I want to know is, where are the journalists at CBS who this is happening under their noses, who never do stories about it? Every time it happens, they go, I had no idea this was going on. I only have worked here for 30 years. What's going? Charlie Rose, really? Well,
There's some truth to that.
Okay.
Well, he's out now. And the women on the talk are talking about it, even though Julie Chen has taken a few days off to be with the family, so they say.
All right. International news.
All right.
Well, they're very happy in Ireland. Trump has canceled his trip there.
Has he?
Yes.
I thought it was still up in the air.
For scheduling reasons. Huge protests were being planned. He was going to go visit his golf course there.
It's a wonderful golf course that I played before he owned it.
Oh, before he owned it.
Yes, and now I can't play it again because he owns it, but it's a wonderful golf course.
We have standards here at Gay USA.
Yeah. In Israel, the state the state of Israel has rejected a compromise worked out by the High Court on lesbian parenthood. The court had said you should be easier on letting these lesbian parents adopt or have kids in any way. And the state, Netanyahu's government, said, no, 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 you're going to have to still get a court order to be allowed to adopt or have kids.
You want to see some courage? They're going to have their first Pride March in Kenya. And who are we going to hear from in this video?
A leader, a gay activist in Kenya who's talking about working to organize the first Pride March in Kenya in October.
My name is Daniel Peter Onyango, an LGBT activist from Kenya. We have partnered for the last 4 years with Section Fund on a project that we have done together, specifically to sensitize the police, the religious leaders, the community, and the members of County Assembly. And through the partnership, I've been in Copenhagen, thrice attending the Copenhagen Pride. And this have really motivated us as Nyarwek to do the first ever Kenyan Pride in October 2018. You're most welcome.
Now that takes courage. And
thank you.
And in Kenya, the woman who made the film Rafiki, the lesbian-themed film, she's now suing the film board because unless it's released in Kenya, it's not eligible for the foreign language Oscar. And the deadline for submissions is September 30th, so she's in court over it.
And have you heard who's in Taiwan campaigning against marriage there?
Brian Brown, our old buddy from the National Organization for Marriage?
Correct.
Yes.
Now he's leading the international organization.
Having lost here, but once he gets Brett Kavanaugh,
he gets around,
he may win again.
Yeah.
All right.
In China, activists want same-sex marriage added to reform of the civil code, which is going to be voted on by the legislature in 2020. So they've organized a whole social media campaign, which has gone viral. Doesn't mean they're going to be listened to or get it, but they're working on it.
On the other hand, in Armenia, they're looking at a Russian-style banning propaganda of homosexuality law that would even ban same-sex kissing in public.
Well, in Australia, the new Pentecostal Prime Minister wants religious freedom laws, like those being pushed by the right wing here. And in Ecuador...
But also in Australia, the Senate passed a motion against conversion therapy.
Yes, they did. But in Ecuador, an appeals court has overturned an earlier pro-same-sex marriage ruling. They're saying that it should go to the National Assembly or the Constitutional Court. The Constitutional Court has already said that they will uphold same-sex marriage, but
They had some ex parte communication with gay activists, and they said, don't worry, we're going to uphold it. That's what happened there. Things work a little differently there. Anyway.
Congratulations to Randy Barry.
Yeah.
Randy Barry in the Obama administration was appointed as the special envoy for LGBTI rights around the world. So, you know, he's an Obama guy, he's gay, he's working for gay rights around the world. You certainly would not have expected to see him pop up again.
Does this mean we don't care about Nepal? I mean, at least the Trump administration, because they're keeping him on as ambassador.
Exactly. Maybe it does. He did work in Nepal 10 years ago as the deputy chief of mission in the U.S. Embassy. So now he is the new ambassador to Nepal, joining Rick Grinnell, gay ambassador to Germany, as gay ambassadors in the Trump administration.
In South Korea. They had the first queer festival in Incheon, and it was seriously delayed by 1,000 Christians who staged an anti-gay protest at the scene. It led to physical attacks and verbal abuse of LGBT people.
That picture is of the Christians fighting with the cops.
Yeah.
It turned into quite a brouhaha, a parade that
quite
was...
a crusade.
Well, the parade was supposed to take 20 minutes, but it took 5 hours. There were only 300 gay marchers planning to do this little queer festival, so being blocked by 1,000 Christians was quite intimidating.
Now, you know, we know things aren't great for gay people in Russia, but there are gay asylum seekers from Uzbekistan who would like to go to Russia. Because gay sex is illegal in Uzbekistan and not in Russia, technically. And they have been met with abuse by Russian immigration officers. Cursed be your father. Do you understand me, dog? Well, it turns out to be an Uzbeki person working for Russia who said this, but oh, God.
Choose your immigration officers better.
Yikes.
In Pakistan, 4 men have burned a trans woman alive after she resisted their attempts to rape her.
And they haven't been able to identify her even at this point, but they're working on that. In Lithuania, police told gay filmmaker Romas Zabar-Orka, you got to remove that rainbow flag because somebody set fire to the building, you know, over this, and a neighbor's apartment was burned. But instead, they went out and bought 500 rainbow flags, distributed them throughout the capital, Vilnius, and told everybody to put them up.
I love these activists around the world. In Samoa, they held their first international conference for LGBT rights, and the Fa'afani, I'm certainly mangling the pronunciation of that word, but it's the, like the Two-Spirit, the trans population said, we don't need marriage, we need jobs. Okay. Which is actually
I hear that a lot at transgender demonstrations.
Exactly.
We need health care and jobs.
And in the UK, the chief rabbi has issued a guide for Orthodox schools to support LGBTQ students.
His name is Ephraim Miras. He says, we have zero tolerance for homophobic or transphobic bullying. He wrote that he's aware of the prohibitions in Leviticus on homosexuality.
Aren't we all?
But that if you use those texts to bully people, it is a desecration of God's name. That's what he said.
Okay, yeah.
And our correspondent, Shep Wanan, said this would be unlikely to happen in the Orthodox community in America, but they're making progress there.
Well, we've made progress in various sectors of Judaism.
And the Catholic Church is finally going to deal with the abuse crisis. It's an emergency, and they're going to have a big meeting in February, late February.
Yeah.
Going to get together the people who caused it and say we're going to fix it. All right.
Don't hold your breath. Well, the U.S. Conference on AIDS took place in Orlando last week, and there were a number of issues brought up there, one of which was that they had asked Larry Kramer to speak. Now, he, in the end, could not travel to Orlando. His health is not fabulous, and he's 83, and so he sent a videotape. Well, they censored the videotape, because one of the things he did was blast the Gilead pharmaceutical company, a major sponsor of the conference, for price gouging on Truvada.
Yes, the generic price of Truvada at this point is $4.75 a month. Gilead charges in the United States $1,881 a month, 400 times the generic price. That's genocide.
So Larry blasted Gilead for the price gouging and blasted the conference for taking Gilead's money. Gilead funds a lot of conferences and stuff around the country and around the world. But the conference
when you've got 100, when you're making that kind of money off drugs.
The speech was too long. We had to edit it, and it's just coincidence that we cut out the Gilead part.
When anybody says to me, and it's happened, we need to trim this a little bit. I said, well, how many words would you like to give me? And I'll leave the right ones in.
And Peter Staley says that FDA has approved generic Truvada, and Gilead is blocking the issuance of that.
The Congress went after Martin Shkreli and made him the poster boy for bad behavior by pharmaceuticals, but they don't take on the big boys.
No, they don't. And they're also,
you're paying for it.
They haven't resolved this question that is only getting hotter about the next international conference being held in San Francisco and Oakland in 2020. And activists are saying, are you kidding me? First, it's much too expensive for people to get there and stay there. It's a terrible place to hold the conference. And we live in a country that is preventing people from coming in as visitors, let alone immigrants. And you are
throwing people out of the army.
Exactly. And you are telling, exactly, with HIV. And you are telling them you don't care about them by holding this conference here. Hold it somewhere else.
Right.
It would not be the first time that an international AIDS conference was moved out of the U.S.
No. So there's a new study that found that 4% of sexually active gay and bi men are using Truvada as PrEP. 25% of young sexually active gay and bi men have never been tested for HIV. It gets higher as you get older. 52% of these young men are familiar with PrEP, and 79% of men 34 to 41. So that's not all very encouraging. But the encouraging news from this study is that that black gay and bi men are now more likely to get tested than white. Because of all the focus that's been on them. They have devoted a lot of resources to this. We used to say it was a great lag and disparity, and that seems to be having some effect. We like to give people good news if there's good news.
Well, we've always tried to promote routine testing of everyone, and have never succeeded in getting that in effect.
And it was nice to see that the National LGBT Cancer Network got $2.5 million from the CDC to expand resources in this administration. That's
pockets of resistance
kind
everywhere.
Of shocking, yeah.
All right.
All right.
Are we ready to move on to our guest and entertainment news?
Let's bring him on. Joining us now is Michael Musto of NewNowNext.com. And of course, a lot of you know him from his many, many years at the Village Voice.
I think 34 years, actually.
Legendary.
More than that if you count the website and before my column started in '84. But New Now Next is a wonderful site with all kinds of queer entertainment and political related stuff. And I have a weekly column every Monday.
Right. And
it's the hip place to be.
And we want to get people interested in you because we want them to come to your big show on October 6th.
Thank you.
Which we're going to talk about.
Which you're going to not only be at, I'm bringing you on stage.
Whoa.
It's 10 o'clock on a Saturday night. I will be home.
We'll wake you up again.
Actually, you're having a lot of guest stars because this is a duets operation.
It's my fourth duets night, Musto Duets 4 at Club Cumming, which is Alan Cumming and Daniel Nardicio's club in the East Village. And it's a benefit for New Alternatives, which helps LGBT homeless kids. And I have people like Jill Cargman from
I'm
Odd
very
Mom
impressed
Out.
I love Odd Mom Out, so the fact that you have Jill Cargman is very impressive.
You've got Steven Brinberg as Barbara Streisand.
And we're deciding if he should come as Barbara or come as himself. Either way, it might be hilarious.
You've got Flotilla DeBarge, our old friend.
She's great. Brini Maxwell. I have Dorothy Bishop as Julie Andrews. I have Kenyon Phillips, Frankie C., Tim Moss.
Richard Pryor Jr.
And he's a terrific singer, and he's done drag.
Wow.
And we're going to talk on stage about how his father reacted to that. Because Richard Pryor Jr. is writing a book about his father.
It looks like a great show. So it's going to be at 10 o'clock on Saturday, October 6th at 10 o'clock. It's at Club Cumming, which is at 505 East 6th Street.
And it's always a crazy festive spirit for these shows.
Well, it's Alan Cummings' club. That's
so much, and Anderson Cooper's boyfriend, Ben Massani, is another co-owner.
Yeah.
And if you want more information about it, you go to danielnardicio.com. That's NARDICIO. .com, and you just click on NYC.
Or dworld.us,
US.
which may be a little easier to remember.
And then you click on Saturday.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
But
Or message me on Facebook, Michael Musto.
Now, Michael Musto is one of the, is the greatest poster on Facebook, and when the Village Voice completely closed up shop at the age of 60, just this past month, I guess, you wrote something.
62.
You wrote something about what people come up to you and say about your work in the world.
Well, for years now, you know what? I am boycotting that paper now that you're no longer there, and I'm like, no, they brought me back. Well, I am still not reading it without you. I'm back. Well, I'm not reaching into that box. It's not a paper anymore. It's a website. I'm not clicking on that site without you. I'm back. And I just give up because I think once people are out of the habit, they don't want to do it again.
Exactly. And now they don't have to because it doesn't exist anymore, but now they have to go to New Now Next. But you're everywhere. You're on MSNBC as a guest.
I was on Ari Melber, yes.
Yeah, and
you know what? I have in my New Now Next column, which is called Musto Unfiltered, I broke the story that The Voice is probably coming back. There's an editor of a style magazine who's looking into it, owner of a style magazine looking into buying it.
Huh.
It might be a cannabis, Bushwick Cannabis Weekly. I have no idea what it's going to be.
So what are you doing these days for your column, and has that changed over the
Nothing's
last
changed.
30
That's
years?
what drives me crazy when people say, I miss your writing. I'm still doing it. And a lot of people do read it, and I do interviews with interesting LGBT personalities. I write about issues. I do think pieces. I do items.
You're at the theater all the time and at the movies, and you're reviewing.
Yeah, and I still go to bars and clubs, and even though the main reason to go to a bar now is to watch Drag Race with a bunch of friends.
Well, speaking of which, RuPaul's Drag Race won multiple awards at the Creative Arts Emmys.
He won for the third year in a row as best host.
Reality host.
Yeah, that's
well,
weird.
I work for MTV logo Viacom site. That's what New Now Next is. So I think it's terrific. And of course, I knew Ru in the early days when he was a little more, he was sort of like Pam Grier meets Cher, I would say. Was fabulous and was really ruling the club scene, and then became slicker and more fabulous as the years went on.
Very. Are you looking forward to the Cher show coming to Broadway?
I wrote a column about the dearth of imagination of these jukebox shows.
Yes.
I liked Head Over Heels because it used the Go-Go's music in an innovative way by using a 16th century tone poem, basically. And it's all written in iambic pentameter, and then they're singing We Got the Beat. It's crazy, and I loved it.
It was different.
Yeah, the Cher show I'm looking forward to, but I'd rather see Cher.
Exactly. I saw her at Madison Square Garden years ago. Fantastic, unbelievable. So it's hard for me to imagine.
That was her 80th farewell tour.
Yes, exactly.
And she hasn't changed the set list since 1960, and that's what I love about it.
Exactly. Why would you want her to?
And Lucas Hedges, who is coming out in a movie called Boy Erased about conversion therapy.
And he's coming to Broadway in the Waverly Gallery.
That's right. Well, with another all-star cast. But he this week said, and of course he did Lady Bird, Manchester by the Sea, got an Oscar nomination for that.
And in Lady Bird, he was gay.
Well, he says, here's his quote: "I'm not totally straight, but also not gay, and not necessarily bisexual. But he said early in his life he was most infatuated with male friends, but for the most part attracted to women." What do we make of all that?
I think it's weird. It's like, I'm not straight, I'm not gay, I'm not bi. You have to be one of those.
Give me a break. I
but look, he's young, he's very sweet, he's very talented.
21.
I've talked to him. I think he's probably gay, and he's just taking baby steps.
It would be in the grand tradition of people who take a while.
Well, at least he's talking about it, which is, and that's what young people do today, and a lot of them don't want to define anything in particular. People
And
are
Andy
non-binary.
and Anne, in the 80s and 90s, Michelangelo Signorelli and I were crucified for addressing these things, celebrity sexuality, and for saying, why don't reporters ask?
Yes,
what's wrong with even asking?
Well, that was the thing. It was always about the journalism. Time magazine called it outing. People have railed against it, but it really was about good journalism.
It was about leveling the playing field in the gossip world and saying, if you could write anything about a celebrity, why draw the line at gay?
And
if you're against outing, then a reporter should ask. That's not outing, that's asking.
Right. Yes.
People were against that even then.
Yes.
And now a New York Magazine reporter asked Lucas Hedges.
And if you leave it out, if you edit it out, you're essentially saying it's the worst thing you could say about anybody.
Exactly.
Yeah. it could hurt their career. Well, a lot of things could hurt people's careers, but you don't have trouble writing them.
No one's pulling
and also,
punches
you're not making them gay. You're just saying they are.
Exactly. Well, we've got something else to talk about. Adam Rippon.
I don't know sports.
But even on Dancing with the Stars, which he won last year.
That's the only sports I know. Yeah, Cloris Leachman. Yeah, I know her.
Well, very, very popular as an Olympic ice skater and then on Dancing with the Stars. So now he's done this Nivea commercial. We don't, we're a non-commercial operation. We don't run commercials for their own sake. But this is newsworthy because he and a football star,
Danny Amendola,
Dolphins wide receiver.
Whoa.
I'm not going to bite the bait, and
I gave you such
I'm not a straight man in any way.
Opening. Okay. Well, they've done this online commercial, Bearing is Caring, about body shaving.
Has Madonna seen it?
I
don't make fun of married women. I take that back.
You'll have to
Send your
ask
letters
her
to
as
these
a good
two.
journalist. But we want you to take a look. There's a monitor over there, and you can watch the Adam Rippon, Danny Amendola Nivea commercial.
Whoa, Danny Amendola, what are you doing here?
Oh, Adam Rippon. I just came from football practice. What are you doing here?
I take tango classes here.
I didn't know you were a tango guy.
Yeah, figure skating's my job, but the beautiful dance is my calling.
Working on your backward ocho?
Is there any other kind? Hey, what's wrong with your leg?
When I tape up before a game, I have to shave my legs first. My skin gets so irritated.
Dude, I shave it all. Arms, chest, everything. You're talking to the right guy.
Body shaving heart to hearts, it's new territory for me.
What do you used to body shave with?
Just the regular stuff. Soap, hand wash, shampoo, body wash, olive oil.
Here, try this Nivea Men body shaving stick. The shave stick gives my blade the perfect precision.
Oh, way to stick the landing.
You know it. And after you're done, just a pump of Nivea Men body shaving lotion, and you're good to go. Here.
Now I can focus on the game and not the burn.
I have to get ready because we apparently have a new instructor today. I really want to impress him.
Don't worry, bro. You already have.
Danny, see you on the dance floor.
It's very sweet, and I think it's a sign of progress, although now that I think of it, it is a little bit like the acting in porn.
It's terrible,
and
I love that they're not famous enough to just say, "Hey, Andy." They have to go, "Hey, Andy Rippon." I think they should just exactly. I think they should just use a Lady Remington. But you know what? I was banned from ad campaigns in the '80s because I wore a dress and I was to this and to that. And now, thanks to online ads, I was in an ad for Absolute not that long ago, and this is great. It's leveling the playing field.
But it is the worst written, worst acted commercial I've seen in a long time.
It's directed by Michael Lucas, I'm pretty sure.
But what about you as a performer? Have you always wanted to be?
Yeah, way back in school, I loved to perform. I was always torn between singing and acting and writing. I just thought writing was more of a profession to pursue, and I was right about that. But at Columbia College, I actually joined the Glee Club just because you got a free trip to Mexico. This is before the wall. And they put us up in a prison, but I still was like, oh, I'm in Mexico. Literally.
Yeah.
And in the 80s, I had a band called The Must. M-U-S-T, and it was a Motown cover band. And then I changed it to Michael Musto and the Must, like Diana Ross and the Supremes. I was basically a white male Diana Ross, like Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
Too soon?
Yeah.
And I just like performing. And a few years ago, people started asking me to do it again.
Yeah. And is it satisfying? It must be.
It is, but I like doing the duets because there's a safety net. There's always somebody else amazing up there with you. If you suck, they're going to be good.
And you can play off them.
Yes.
And
I let them shine.
And I saw you get roasted, and you were very good in your responses to that. As
Well, I wrote most of the jokes. I really did. I wrote a lot of the jokes because I thought if people are going to trash me, at least if I wrote it, I'll know what they're going to say and it won't hurt as much.
Yeah, no, we were there. It was interesting.
It didn't hurt at all. We raised a lot of money for Cal and Lord.
Well, you say you don't watch TV. I've got one for you. The Miniaturist on PBS. Now, that seems impossible.
It's about my private parts.
It's about 17th century Amsterdam.
Been there. What about it?
Well, it has this secret gay plot that doesn't show up until the end of the first episode, which I'm not going to spoil for everyone, but I will recommend that people watch The Miniaturist on PBS. It's just a 3-part series.
Do they have whores and windows like they have now in Amsterdam?
Just about.
I'm watching. I'm a window shopper.
The young girl who is kidnapped from England to marry an Amsterdamian is told she's put in a particular room so that everyone outside can look at her. So that's part of it.
I'm the only one who found Amsterdam a little boring when I went. It was like, I expected just pandemonium in the streets.
Well, I'm just putting it on the list of things for people to watch.
What do you think about the fact that they're doing a sequel to Call Me By Your Name? Now, with all the controversies over casting, whether gay should play gay, they seem to be sticking with Armie Hammer and what's the young man's name? Timothy
Chalamet.
Yeah.
Well, Armie Hammer's character, not to give it away if you didn't see the first one, but it's uncertain if he's bisexual or closeted. He kind of dumps the kid at the end to go back to his girlfriend.
Yes. He's going to get married.
I love Armie Hammer. I think, and he is talking a lot about how people give him peaches, if you've seen the movie, to autograph.
Yes.
It's all about fruit. I think it's far preferable to the grapefruit that I used growing up, but
what are they doing
where
with
am I going with
autograph
this?
Where are you on the whole casting controversy about transplanting?
I think actors are actors.
Yeah.
I think actors play all different parts. Meryl Streep wasn't really in the Holocaust. That being said, if the Holocaust even happened, no, these are jokes, people.
Yeah.
That being said, I think the playing field is not level. In other words, trans people do not get to play cis characters, and they usually don't even get to play trans characters.
Right.
So you can't go by actors or actors and they play anything.
And the trans actors who have gotten roles in the last couple of years have been doing such a spectacular job with them that you can see that it really does make a difference to have a trans person playing a trans
there was this big movie, Rub and Tug, where Scarlett Johansson had to drop out of playing a real-life trans man character because of the controversy.
Yeah.
And part of the argument is, well, we need a big name. Well, Timothy Chalamet was not a big name when they did Call Me By Your Name. Armie Hammer was a name, so the supporting character could be a name. That's one way around that. Secondly, they say, well, we need a star, but they won't allow trans people to become stars in the business. So that's a catch-22. And that has to be rectified. I think Scarlett stepping down was a great step. I don't think every trans character has to be played by a trans actor, but some of them should be. And some of them in leading roles have to be.
She'd been in so much trouble for SodaStream to begin with.
Yeah.
She couldn't afford any more scandals.
Well, she's apparently the highest paid actor in the world right now, or the actress anyway, or female actor, yes?
I don't know, but I also think it's annoying that these cis actors that play trans or gay roles get so much acclaim, and they inevitably win awards, from Felicity Huffman to Jared Leto, on and on and on, Hilary Swank, because of their courage in going there, as if a trans actor doesn't have any courage.
Or as if it takes courage to play someone
or as if they're
you're
not acting. Of course, a trans actor would still be acting. You're playing a role.
Well, what about the new development at the other development at the National Football League? Some teams are actually getting rid of cheerleaders altogether because it's sexist and objectifying, but 2 teams are bringing in men for the first time, and they are taking a lot of homophobic abuse. We have pictures of them at the...
There's the Saints guy.
Saints guy. Wait a minute, we have his name here. Wait a minute, hold it. We should credit him. His name is Jesse Hernandez at the Rams, and then at the Saints, it's Quinton Perron and Napoleon Ginnies, and they're there with Emily Liebert. So this is a new thing.
So now we have 2 more people who are going to be on their knees. This is terrible.
I hope so.
Absolutely terrible.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
Well,
this is great. Yeah, male cheerleaders are part of the sports arena. They've always been there.
Always.
Not just on SNL. They really
George
exist.
W. Bush was a cheerleader at Yale.
Exactly.
I wish he had stuck with that.
Wouldn't that have been nice? But they are getting just violent abuse online and complaints about the feminization of the football league.
But Jesse's mother said those people who are saying these things need to get over it. It's 2018.
I love that the parents are sticking by their kids.
Yes.
This is a new development.
Yes.
Parents are getting braver.
On all
They're being
fronts.
emboldened, and they're helping change
and
occur.
the kids at that high school in New Jersey standing up to the congressman who's anti-gay adoption. the kids are taking all this into their hands and objecting.
And you always had your mother by your side.
You know what? She once said to me, Michael, I love gay people and I hope they're happy. And that was her way of telling me. I'm going to cry. That was her way of telling me that she loved me for being gay.
She was with you all the time.
And my father made a complete turnaround too. I once I had a subscription when I lived at home to New York Magazine. It was a cover story on gays in the 70s.
Yes.
And he wrote on the cover, a bunch of sick perverts who should be exterminated. And he came around because I brought him to parties and he met all the fabulous queer people. And he became a wonderful supporter.
Very sweet. Nice.
I cried on Gay USA.
Oh, well.
It's not even Hurricane Katrina.
We'll get you out of it.
It's a tough week. We feel like crying all the time.
It could ruin my career.
No, we feel like crying all the time.
Put it in your column.
We do.
All right, so we mentioned RuPaul winning the Emmy. The other thing that won the Emmy was the new Queer Eye. I have not been able to bring myself to watch it.
I did watch the first episode.
It won for outstanding casting for reality programming.
Right, because they have to cast the culture guy, the fashion guy, the food and wine guy.
It also won Best Structured Reality Show. That was just one of the sort of ancillary ones.
Well,
is it worth watching?
I enjoyed the first episode, but I found it calculated. I didn't totally buy it. They transformed this man into being chicer and more comfortable in himself, and he reconnected with his old girlfriend. Like, everything good happened for him, and it was a little fake to me, but it was sweet. I just think positive stereotypes could be as problematic as negative ones. The idea that gay people
sure, of course.
have taste.
But it's hard to know.
And I'm proud of that.
You know, we've been out and reasonably proud for decades, and I think we've lost touch with the rest of the world that isn't quite as advanced. And I'm constantly surprised by people learning new things.
So I think the show probably does good because people go, oh, look at these nice gays helping people.
Speaking of new things, you are a prognosticator at goldderby.com.
Yes.
As are you.
Well, I'm for the Tonys, but we're talking about the Oscars. People are already predicting the Oscars, and who are you going with this season?
Well, I'm hoping it's a good year for Glenn Close. She's certainly due. She was terrific in The Wife.
Yeah.
I think First Man, which I haven't seen, is going to be up. I think The Favorite is going to be up. There are a lot of movies about race relations. I thought Black Klansman was stunning.
I haven't seen it
and that should be up for picture and director.
Anything gay?
There's nothing gay on the list. There's Boy Erased, but I'm not hearing that that's really Oscar material. That's about a kid who goes through an ex-gay conversion.
Lucas Hedges with Nicole Kidman and Russell Crowe as his very conservative parents.
And Lucas is also an opioid addict in another movie with Julia Roberts. Ben is back.
Well, we saw The Miseducation of Cameron Post and didn't like that and thought it was
I didn't love
kind
it.
of silly.
I might be wrong about Lucas being in that Julia Roberts movie. I shouldn't say that. I'm not certain.
All right. Well, we are running out of time. I will tell people that the Primetime Emmys are on Monday night on NBC if you want to see some of these people. And
if you want to see Michael Musto, it is at Club Cumming on October 6th at 10 p.m. at 505 East 6th Street. If you want more information about this, go to dworld.us and you can read all about it. We got it up there on the screen.
And click on Saturday when you go on that site.
And the best gay speech this week was on BET on Black Girls Rock, where Lena Waithe got an award and was just stunning in her pride and assertiveness.
Well, Amandla Stenberg came out as a lesbian. She might be up for an Oscar.
Okay.
We'll look forward to being with you on October 6th, Michael.
Out of time. See you next week.